Evening, guys. We'll start. Okay. Array, people are now. Oh, Friday. Okay. We have to wait. Okay, we'll wait for a couple of minutes. What do we have to do today? Oh, we are in the middle of estimation, right? Okay. We'll take real-time examples and see how it works today.
Jira.
Jira and we have to do subtasking and all those things.
It means and how is it?
Today's when did this batch start? When is the last date?
It was started on 4th of August.
1st August.
4th.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I have to cover so many other things also. So let's cover the hybrid also today. Okay. Okay, I think people are there. So the first decision as a Scrum Master, which you have to make with the team when you introduce estimation. So you introduce estimation to these guys. So let us assume you get into an organization where people are already aware of what is estimation. They are already doing it. Then it becomes easy for you. But let us say you reach an organization where people are not aware. So you tell them what is the idea of estimation, like we discussed yesterday. What is relative estimation? You give them examples, weekend packing, egg. It could be different tasks. Make a coffee, make a lunch, play cricket for 2 hours. What is rank these activities in terms of effort, risk, and uncertainty? They can do that. Once they get used to ranking different activities in terms of effort, uncertainty, and risk, then they get the idea what is estimation. Then the real thing starts. You have to pick up a story which is your baseline story, the story which you will use to compare the rest of the stories with. Because see, estimation is comparing the stories to a baseline story. There will be a baseline story. You will compare that story to the other stories and see how much more effort, how much more risk, how much more uncertainty there is. Let's see how this works. So I think there are a few more people who are going to join, but fine, I'll repeat. And where is my Jira? Okay, this is my Jira. So this is my product backlog. In this product backlog, what is this? User onboarding. What is this?
Epic.
Epic. So on a very basic level, you will have an epic. Epic is essentially a feature, and that feature will be subdivided into stories, or epic will be divided into stories. There are other configurations also, which I will talk probably in the next session. In real, this is a very basic configuration, but in real time, you could also get initiative, themes, features, epics. Typically, features are subdivided into sub features, which are your epics. Then sub features are which are your epics. Then they are those divided into stories. So that we'll talk what is that, but later on. Now we'll just concentrate today on a very basic configuration. Epic is my feature, which is user onboarding. So my PO says that, boss, I want few things to be done in the user onboarding thing. Okay. We ask him, what is that? What are the different requirements you have in this? He says, first, you will allow guest login. You don't have to log in into my application. Even if you are browsing it, you are a guest, I will still allow you to access few pages. You would have seen a lot of applications are like that. It allows you guest login. You don't have to log in. You are just a guest, but your access is limited to informational pages only. So that sort of requirement he is given. Then he says, I want to log in into my application using email and password. So I want to register new users. So registration of a new user is another requirement. Then I want to log in securely. That is another login securely. That is another requirement. Then if I forget the password, if the customer forgets the password, I want to reset the password. That is another requirement. So basically, all of these come under user onboarding. These are different requirements. These are different stories. So this story, which is the guest login story, let us see what is this story all about. So this is how this story will look like. As a guest, I want to browse without logging in so that I can explore the app first. So PO says, boss, guest can access all public pages. And when guest tries to get into the restricted pages, they are directed to login page. Okay, that is fine. Deem says, and this is in the grooming session. In the grooming session, the product owner will share his screen, show his Jira, tell this requirement, and he will maybe say 2 acceptance criteria. Somebody in the team will say, what happens when the navigation are there? Should we show the navigation clearly so that what are the options available? PO says, yeah, that's a good idea. I need that. Or then they say, do guests do they expire the login after 5 minutes? PO says, no, I don't need that. No expiry, let them be a guest user for as much while as they want. So he rejects that idea. So team will interact, but finally, let us assume that they finalize this acceptance criteria. So as a Scrum Master, first thing is that this call is happening. The grooming is happening. QAs, sometimes QAs are not included in these grooming calls. They don't know what the requirement is. Then they are expected to test it, and they end up making a lot of mistakes. They are not clear with the scope of the story. So your first job is to make sure it is a shift left culture, which is QAs are from the very start. That is your role. QAs are there in the grooming calls from the very start. So that's your role. Your role is not to provide this acceptance criteria. If you give suggestions, that is a bonus, that is additional. But your rice and dal is the culture that you are building. This is an add-on. If you do it, fine. If you don't do it, fine. But you have to make sure these guys are getting into, okay, everybody has joined. Okay, so now acceptance, you have to make sure the call is happening and PO introduces the story. He tells why we are building this story. Then he tells what is the scope of the story. So this is the scope of the story, and that scope is discussed with the developers. That scope is discussed with the QAs. QA says, okay, I will be able to test this. Developer says, I will be able to build this. Okay, so now I'm going to so now the technical team gets into the picture. The technical team says, boss, what are the different things we have to do in this story? So till the time acceptance criteria is finalized, there is an interaction between PO, devs, and QAs. Once that is finished, That's over. You are clear with the scope of the story. Acceptance criteria is finalized. Now, the team will do tasking of the story. What are the various things which we have to do? Sometimes you will not do these taskings because you don't have enough time. And that can also happen. Then you will use t-shirt sizing. I'll discuss that use case later on, but not now. So now we are going to do tasking. So why do we need to do tasking? Because it tells you which are the various tasks we have to do in order to complete this story. So the first thing in guest browsing is the backend task. You have to define what is public versus restricted access. You have to update your access control logic. So backend task. How, in which language you will do? Python, MySQL, whatever language you want to use. This is up to the whatever tech stack that you. So I click on this plus, then I click on a subtask. So the subtask is, the first subtask will be the backend task. Who will create these subtasks? Your technical team. The technical team will create these subtasks. It could be, maybe Kiran is the backend guy. He says, okay, Joey, I need the backend task. In backend, we need public versus restricted resources. I need to update my access control logic, so on and so forth. So he tells me all those things. Okay, all these things he tells me. I am a PO and I add it into this. But the responsibility of creating the technical tasks lies with the corresponding team. This should be very clear in your mind. Technical tasks are not created by Scrum Masters. They are not created by the product owners. Of course, let us say in my past experience, I have worked. So I am from a ERP background. I started working with PeopleSoft. So if I am working on an ERP, maybe I can contribute. But if they are working on some product or some domain that I don't know, then I won't know. And that is fine. The responsibility is theirs. If SM is technical, he can suggest, but ultimately the team is responsible to create those subtasks. Okay, so we created a backend subtask. Again, we are not even talking about estimations. Estimations are way, way away now. We just spoke about acceptance criteria. We all have to clear. We have to be clear. Okay, this is the final acceptance. Okay. Then once that is clear, then you are saying, okay, this is what we have to do. Now, what do we do in this? So we create a backend task. Then we create a UI task. What is it in the UI we need? Some navigation menu where show and hide option menu is there. It's a very simple, nothing major here, very simple UI task. Just one flow is there. So UI task. Okay. Then do we need an API? Yes. We need a restricted endpoints API for unauthorized guests. So which language we are going to, whether it will be Java, Node, whatever, that the technical team can decide, the tech leads can decide, architects can decide, that they can decide. So let us say I create an API task. Okay. Now the QA tasks. Is this all we need in this? Yes. And QA task is very simple in this, nothing major. Just one scenario is there. They just have to check that whether the guy has access or not. And then there is not much here. Very simple task. Now, QA can open their task. In these subtasks, they can create further subtasks. But that configuration I don't have here. If you look at this, can I create a subtask of a subtask? That option is not there, but you can have it in your Jira. So I wanted to create a subtask of this. So so that workflow is dependent on whatever Jira workflow you have. In this case, the workflow is Epic. Epic is divided into story, then story is divided into subtasks. If I want further demarcation, that is possible. So in this case, QA says, I don't want one task, I want 3 tasks. Test execution, test case design, and test data creation. So somebody says, but this is a very simple this thing. He says, okay, I'll live with it. I'll create all these 3 things within that task. But if it is a complicated story, I can have 3 tasks for my QA. Similarly, backend, if there are multiple tasks, you can create those multiple tasks also. Don't ask me the questions of how we are going to assign this story now. That we'll get into. Who will do it? Is it one developer? Is it multiple developers? Is it one QA? Is it multiple QAs? Don't get into that discussion right now. Only we will think about estimations first. Then we will talk about assignation. Okay. Because I know the first question you'll ask me if how many developers, how many QAs? Hang on. We'll get into that. So acceptance criteria is final. Tasking is also done. There is a backend task, there is a UI task, there is an API task, there is a QA task. These 4 tasks. Is there anything else? No. Team says no. This is all. How difficult is this? This is very simple here. UI task, just one basic workflow is there. Navigation, very simple. API, again, not much complication. QA, just not many edge cases or negative scenarios, very simple. Do you all understand this? Yes. Is there anybody that does not understand it? No. Because this is a very, very, very simple and a basic story. But it has a UI component, it has an API component, it has a backend component. Whenever you are choosing a base story, make sure you have at least 2 layers, if not 3 layers to that story. Don't use just I have to create a radio button. That is a one pointer. That is a rookie Scrum Master mistake. Don't make a very, very simple, unrealistic story. It should be a realistic. This is a realistic story. It is a proper functionality. You are implementing guest login. It's a proper story. So make sure whatever you choose a 2 pointer as a baseline, which has a simple UI and a backend task. So that is a rookie mistake which a lot of people do who do not have experience in Agile. They will choose just a 1 pointer with a very simple UI task. In fact, if you have only UI task, that's not even a complete functionality. What are you going to show? Simple form, no backend? That doesn't work like that. So in Agile, you will always have all the layers of a functionality. So there are 3 layers minimum. It could be nth layer, it could be 2 layers also, but there are different components to building a functionality. So you must always have 2 or 3 layers. All the layers should be within that story because you want a completed functionality. If this was only a UI task, you are just creating that navigation thing with no underlying backend logic, then I can't show this to the stakeholder. It's not a completed functionality. And if it is not a completed functionality, that story is not delivering value. So we don't divide stories into UI stories different, backend stories different, QA stories different, because that separation means that you cannot stand alone test that story. Remember, invest, independent, it needs to have a value, it should be testable. So it's just create a, so if I just create a QA story here and not include anything else, I'll say, oh, you complete the story, I have a separate QA story. I can do that, right?
Okay.
Lot of teams can do it, right? You don't include QA task here, you create another story for QA. That's not a good practice. Everything inclusive. So team says, yes, everything included. Okay, now they say it's very simple, UI is simple, API is simple, backend simple, very, very simple. If it is so simple, then let us call it a baseline story or a, so sprint value I haven't added. So let us say, where is my story points? There is my story points. I just have to put a 2 there. Scrum Master can do it, PO can do it, team can do it after a discussion. So typically in your real-time projects, you will have In the initial stage, you can in the first sprint, you will maybe do t-shirt sizing, but only in the second or third sprint you will get into proper story pointing, and by that time you will have 3, 4, 5, 6 stories in your backlog which they might have done. Among the stories which they have done, you can ask me which are the simplest stories that you have done. So let us say they will give you 2 or 3 simple stories. Out of that story, which is the simplest one, let them vote for it. So they have to choose which is the baseline story, and they can have 2 or 3 options, whatever they have. Is this point very clear? Estimations can only happen if you have a baseline story. You need a very basic story which has a simple UI, simple backend, simple testing. Everybody understands it. It's a 2-pointer, very basic story. Is this point very clear to all of us? And you will have, if you don't have it at the start, that is fine. That's not the end of the world. Then you can introduce a t-shirt sizing. I'll show you how. But by second sprint, 100% you will have 2, 3, 4 stories. Out of those stories, they can pick any story which is a very basic story and call it a 2-pointer. Is this clear to all of us? Now, let me go. So we have got our baseline story, which was our first task, which was to get a baseline story. Now, so what is labels, assignee, all that we'll get into. Let's not move away from our basic task, which is to understand the estimations. So at least I have got the first story estimated, which is our baseline story. Now I will go to my second story, which is, which one we want to pick? Let us pick up the registration story, the user registration story. Yeah, this one. So in this registration story, why does this become crap? Okay. Okay, again, the PO introduces this story, tells the acceptance criteria. There is a debate. They say, what is the minimum length of the email format? What about the special characters? Is the duplicate registration allowed? Not duplicate email registration is allowed or not allowed? They say no, it is not allowed. Is a password going to be stored? Yes, the password is going to. All that negotiation they will do. This is between the team and the. Now, what is this? There is another role of Scrum Master. Sometimes developers will not ask any questions in the grooming call. They think it is a break from coding. And if they are not asking any questions, clarifications, then in the middle of the sprint, they will block a story that we don't know. But what were you doing in the grooming call? Why were you not raising it? So that expectation the Scrum Master has to set with the team, that team has to ask the questions, and you have to be there to observe whether team is taking that interest during the grooming or not. Suppose Kiran is not taking the interest in the grooming. No problem. Then in the middle of the sprint, he blocks the story. No problem. Then again, he does that in the next grooming call. Then I say, hi, Kiran, how are you doing? He says, how are you doing? Let's have a one-on-one. So, Kiran, this story was blocked. It could have been better if you could have asked whether you have to store the password in hash format or not in the grooming itself. That is the role of the Scrum Master. Don't get acceptance criteria, whatever. That's not your role. Defining the acceptance criteria is the role of a PO. Accepting the acceptance criteria is the role of a developer and tester. Your role is to observe whether Kiran, Wasim, Sudipta, Deepak, all these people are asking the right questions or not? And if they are not asking the right questions, are they then blocking the story in the middle of the sprint? If yes, then you please give them this feedback that we could avoid these by being more attentive in the grooming calls. But Kiran, being Kiran, he doesn't listen to Joey. He says, to hell with Joey. Okay. He again does that. And we see there is a consistent pattern that Kiran is not attentive in the story, or not only Kiran, there are other two folks also, or team as a whole is not attentive in the stories. They are not asking enough questions. They are not finalizing the acceptance criteria, or the PO is adding more acceptance criteria. All of those cases, those are the things that you have to handle in a team. You have to make sure people are asking the right questions. And if they are not asking in one sprint, that's fine. Second sprint, are they learning from it? Third sprint, are they learning from it? Are they going deep enough into their stories? Are they doing the tasking properly or not? Are they understanding the requirement? Are they, how many questions are they asking? Does PO have the right answers or not? Do you need a domain expert? Do you need an architect? If yes, you get them into the call. Are you, do you get the feel from the people that they are understanding it? You sometimes you will get the feel, no, they are not understanding it. Maybe the PO is not able to explain things properly. Then you tell the PO, boss, I don't think these guys are very comfortable with what we explained. Can we give them more use cases? Can we give them some sort of diagram, some sort of flow chart? He says, yeah. Can we give him more use? I mean, this is a very basic story, but in real time basis, I'll show you some real time complicated stories also. So this is the role of a scrum master. Okay, that whether, so is Kiran estimating it? Is Mohammed estimating it? When team asks, okay, let's do the estimations, are they there, or are they just on mute and with video closed, or they are not even there? So if they are not there participating, you observe them, you give them the feedback. Again, no talking to their line manager, just one-on-one feedback, trying to encourage them to be there. So that, see, what is the difference between an average developer and a super developer? Domain knowledge. Syntax, everybody knows. These days, AI tools are also there. So it's whether you understand the business problem, and if you understand the business problem, then how you are going to code it. Coding is not very difficult after 2, 3, 4 years. Everybody can code. The understanding of domain is the real deal. So how do you build that competency of domain knowledge? By being attentive in the grooming calls, isn't it? बस ये ज्ञान इंटरव्यू में भी बांटना, और कई बार कंपनी में भी बांट लेना मन करे तो. अप्रेजल दें तो बोल देना, नहीं तो चुप रहना. But at least you have to say all of these things in the interview. Okay, that you have this understanding that this is your role in the grooming, that people are participating, they are asking the right questions. QA is assessing whether it is testable, they are giving some test case scenarios, that discussion is happening or not. And people are not blaming each other, people are not fighting with each other, there is not much ego at play. Now suppose Kiran is sorry Kiran, just, so let us say 3-4 sprints he is not. Then if 3-4 sprints there is no change in his behavior, he doesn't care about grooming, then you go to his line manager and see what are the, and again, not escalation, what are the ways we can improve Kiran's attentiveness in the grooming sessions, so as he identifies issues beforehand, so that stories don't get into a blocked state, or stories are not slowed down by clarifications that he may seek because of his non-attentiveness in the grooming sessions. So then you forge a plan, and then sometimes people will change, sometimes people will not change. But whenever you are passing on some feedback, give time also to people. Kiran will not change overnight. This change of behavior will take 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Give enough time to change the behavior of people. Don't be impatient. Kiran, I told you, why are you not attending it? What do you think you are? No, yeah. Kiran is an adult. He understands things, but change of habit takes time to happen. So have some patience. And normally these people have such tight delivery lines, they are on top of you. So it takes a good organization culture to have that kind of patience. Typically, organizations don't have that culture. So you can't do this sort of behavior change in those crap organizations. There, it's only survival culture. How do you deal with those? That also we'll discuss. Okay. See, I am assuming you guys will be hired by some of the very best companies and you'll be able to crack it. The bad companies are easier. Those are pretty standard answers you have to give. They will take you. No worries there.
Sir, will they ask more technical questions?
Will they ask?
More technical questions for a Scrum Master?
No. See,
No, no.
again, I told you. See, if the Scrum Master is interested more on the technical side and less on the process side, then that's a problem. Unless it is a 3 or a 4 member team, it is an operating system team, you need a deep, hardcore technical Scrum Master. There, you are not too worried about the processes. The processes are set by some other agile coach. The role of a Scrum Master is very different. Right. But typically, the role of a Scrum Master is he is observing people are asking the questions or not, PO is discussing these stories or not, QA is invited or not. All of this is happening or not. If not, then he will try to talk to people to get these practices going. He is the implementer of these practices. Practice of discussing the stories, practice of estimating the stories, process of doing the tasking, process of being attentive in the grooming sessions, all of those things.
Sir, in product companies like Google, Amazon, all those companies, so they expect Scrum Master to be process oriented or both process and technical oriented.
It depends on team to team here. There is no formula. I've seen all sorts of different personalities get into this role. You
So in
could
the
be
interview,
more on the technical side, you could be less on the technical side. There is no formula here.
no, so
It
in the
depends
resume,
on what sort of requirement is they have, what is the nature of the product, what is the again, in organization also it depends on the personality of the tower lead, what sort of people he is looking to do, what sort kind of culture they have.
so accordingly we should change our resume.
Accordingly you should. See, everybody is not different. If I, maybe you are more technical. So if I need more technical, I'll hire you. If I have different needs. I have a 25 member team. I don't need, I have enough tech leads, but I don't have a good communicator. So I will get a guy with more process oriented information. So just like in real life, yeah, there is no formula for anything. Movies are different, people are different. Everything has a character of its own. So same way. There is no formula for these things. And Scrum Master is a very weird position in that sense. Okay, so let me get back to where we were. So you understood what, okay, now, okay, so we were at this place. So we have to, again, let's do the tasking. Acceptance criteria is clear to everybody. This is a registration. So now let us again create the backend task. So now in backend, what do we have to do? We have to do a user schema. You have to do duplicate handling. You have to do password hashing. All those things we have to do. So that discussion should happen, and then backend tasks. And in the backend tasks, you can put those details also. That so I can put that details also. I will do password. Why am I doing this? Because sometimes teams will avoid to do tasking. In those cases, you are not getting into the details. So the less details you know, the more difficult it is to do the estimations. And if you don't have very many details, then you can do a high level estimation. That high level estimation is where you use t-shirt sizing rather than planning poker. So How we'll get into planning poker, I'll get into. So password hashing and then duplicate check. So let us say I'm going to put password hashing is done, duplicate check is done. And there are some of the other things that they can do. They can put that information. So then you will have a UI task. So in UI, you have to make a registration form, then you have to do validation, then you will have different error states. All of that activity you have to do. So again, these are your tech leads and your technical team that will be doing all these activities. Once they understand the requirement, then they will do all these things. Then again, I am saying QA task. And then the API task. Now team says, can we, now the tasking is done, acceptance criteria is clear. You already have a baseline story, which is your guest login, which has a very simple UI, simple backend, simple testing. Now you ask that boss, then you do what we call planning poker. So now you have a baseline story. You understand what do we have to do in this story. What do we have to do in this story? We have to create a backend with user schema, password hashing. We have to create a registration form. For an API, we need a registration endpoint. The QA will validate the input output, duplicate email, other flow. So we know, okay, these are the things that we have to do. Now the team understands the story. Now we say, boss, can we do an estimation of this story? Compared to the baseline story, is it 2 times more difficult, 4 times more difficult, 10 times more difficult? Let the team decide. Then, so either you can do this in Miro, or you can simply do this in a lot of teams do, even in Teams. Yeah. At the count of 1, 2, 3, can you put in your estimations? They will put in the estimations, or I will show you Miro also. In Miro also, you can do this. I'll show you Miro after 5-10 minutes. So you can basically have a story there, and then everybody can log in. They can flip a card, and at the same time, so somebody will say this is a 3-pointer. Somebody will say 5. Somebody will say 8. Somebody will say 30. Let us say typically this story, lot of people say this is a 5-pointer. 2 people say this is an 8-pointer. 1 person says this is a 13-pointer. And everybody estimates this. Even if you are a QA, even if you are a Java developer, even if you are a backend developer, even if you are a UI developer, everybody estimates the story. Why? Because you want a multi-skill team. You want more than 2 skills. That is why we talk about T-shaped skills. So backend UI people will know. If sometimes you will also encourage people to know basic QA testing also. And testers should know at least a bit of what their developers are getting into. So estimations, everybody should be a part of. What is the effort? So compared to can we all do it? I think most of you have some technical backgrounds. So you understood the baseline story. You understand this story also. Can we do a quick estimation? Just put in the points in the chat. So this is what will happen once the story is tasked. Then Scrum Master will say, let's do a quick estimation. So let's see what people come up with. So 5, 2, 8. Priyanka says this is 2. So Priyanka, this is at the same level as a guest login. The effort is same.
So I mean, it's not difficult actually, that another login. It's little
But
difficult
guest
than
browsing is a very simple story. Compared to that, is it exactly same effort? Very similar. or is it little more effort?
Little more, then it may be 3 then.
Okay, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Then Chavan sir says 6. 6 is not a possibility, Chavan sir, because this is a Fibonacci series. You can only use 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 13, maybe a 20. Remember, we are using a Fibonacci scale.
Yes, sorry.
Now is this 5. Okay. So what am I doing after this? So the story's acceptance criteria is cleared. Then tasking is done. After these 2 activities are over, then third activity in the grooming call is the Scrum Master says, now you all understand the story. Let's do a estimation. Estimation is you are not trying to find the time of a story. You are trying to find out how much effort, how much uncertainty, how much risk is involved compared to a baseline story. So Priyanka said this is a 3-pointer. Initially she started with 2, now she is saying 3. Okay. So what am I do? So most people say 5. I also agree with 5. But whatever is the most popular opinion, we will not ask those people. We will ask people who are outliers. People who are either doing a less estimation or they are doing a more estimation. So Abhilasha, why do you say it is 8? What are your reasons to say
I'm
8?
thinking from developer plus QA both point of view. So like if user can register with email ID plus password, so before that we should have like the already the login functionality implemented. And if it is like kind of so let's say if there is kind of secure email functionality is there or not, so QA should know that also.
Hmm. So
And
you are saying there would be more test cases for QA. So the effort is more compared to a guest browsing functionality. This is 4 times more difficult, 4 times more effort. So if I have to create 5 cases as
yes,
a QA there, now I have to create 20 cases. Something like that you are thinking.
yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Hmm.
So, and Venkatesh sir also says 8 points. And Kiran, why do you say 8 points? Is it 4 times more difficult and 4 times more effort than guest browsing story?
Yeah, because password is there. On the password, we have to be shared properly. Actually, that's why it is bit difficult. If it is not with the password sharing, saving in the DB, it will be different in hash method.
No. It is a very, you just have to do duplicate handling. You just have to do password hashing, which is not very difficult. I mean, every other application has that kind of functionality. So what do you say? Can I say it is 3 times or 2.5 times?
Yeah, 3 times.
Huh? Not 4 times.
Yeah, 3
Times. Okay, so
3
we are
times.
able to win Kiran over. So see, mostly why browsing story was very simple because it had bare minimum backend, bare minimum UI. In this case, the backend is there, but it is 2 or 3 times more difficult. In QA also, you just have to check valid email, invalid email, and what else you have to check? Maybe a duplicate check. That's
Duplicate.
all. Huh? Valid, invalid, and duplicate. That's all. Right? Or do you think there is anything else? Again, let's not get into too much. What I am saying is this is how the discussion happens. So planning poker is a method where after the story is finalized in its acceptance criteria and tasking, then sometimes people don't do tasking. Only after the acceptance criteria, they are getting into a discussion. But as a good practice, you do a tasking also and then start planning poker, because planning poker is a detailed estimation of a story. So this, after the first round of estimation, the outliers are asked, why are you saying, everybody is saying 5, but why are you saying 3? So Priyanka explained her point. Similarly, Kiran said 8, but he's explaining his point. Abhilasha is explaining his point. Then, like I'm saying, oh, this is not much. Somebody will say, no, 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 no. Somebody will say, this is a deep UI logic. Somebody will say, hey, this is a very simple, just one flow. It's not much. Then either people will agree or they will not agree. Let us assume now everybody agrees. And
So, if there are QA and developers, maybe a QA will think from a QA perspective. So, as this is a login function, I made two
this
testing.
is where this is
So,
agile. This is where you have to coach him that boss. You have to think from a QA perspective, yes, in terms of how much effort there is compared to a baseline story. This story is 3 times more difficult in terms he can think in terms of QA only, but if baseline story is a 2-pointer, is it 2 times more difficult, 3 times more difficult, 4 times more difficult in that
yeah,
sense?
for this one, I thought it from a testing perspective that it is not much difficult to check a login page. So it was little more than the this thing.
So it
So
is just 1 or 1.5 times more difficult.
yeah.
But from a backend perspective, it is maybe 2 or 3 times more difficult.
Yes.
So this is correct. Both will say from their work point of view, the developers from their perspective and the QA from their perspective.
You're breaking up.
Okay. Is it clear now?
It's little
Yeah.
better.
So I was telling that the developers will think from their perspective and the QA from their testing point of view. So that is the correct way to go ahead.
Yeah, that is the correct way to go ahead.
Okay.
There is no problem. Because ultimately, whether it is 5 or 8 points, I don't give a damn about it. What I give a damn about is people are discussing the intricacies or the nuances of this requirement. People are getting clarity on the requirement, because this clarity will make them do these things faster. Let us say if we don't have this clarity, then on the 3rd day or the 4th day of the sprint, you have all done this, right? Without getting any clarity on or the requirement discussion, you have straight away jumped to the requirements and messed up everything. Hasn't that happened many times? So let us say as a QA, you are PO is saying, oh, let's not check the duplicates. It's a very simple beta version we are using. Let's forget about the duplicates for now. Imagine if you were doing duplicates, you could have wasted 2-3 more hours. In now the cases, we don't even need the duplicate check because we don't have that expectations with the customers. So fine, we saved that time.
Okay.
Or maybe you needed duplicates and you say, well, what about duplicates? If imagine you assume that you did not have to check the duplicate emails. So, and if we go with the duplicates to the client, he says, what the hell, yeah, you have duplicates in your data. This is unacceptable. Point is that discussion is very important of what you are doing so that there is no miscommunication between the developers, QAs, and the stakeholders' expectations. So all of the customer satisfaction is not. So this is the process that you have to explain it to these guys. That is the role of the Scrum Master. That discussion is happening. Ultimately, team can say 5, 8, whatever they say, it's fine. It's not the. And again, don't let them debate for too long. Initially, they will, but it doesn't matter. You can call it 8-pointer also. Who cares? But let us say all of you are saying, let us say 5-point. But maybe Kiran is still not agreeing. He says, no, I have to implement a hash algorithm. It is a more complicated effort. So then you will have after the first round of discussion, first round of estimation, you again have a discussion, then you again have a second round of estimation. In the second round of estimation, after clarifications, Kiran is still saying, no, it is an 8-pointer. So we ask Kiran, boss, why? He says, I have to implement a hash algorithm here. This is complicated. And this is more effort because I need a approval from the security guy also. That will also take a couple of days more. We have to send an email, fill a form. That effort is also there. We need to get an approval. Architect says, no, 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 we don't have to apply a hash algorithm. Already used case is there. We don't need that approval. Already I have that approval. Okay, then Kiran says, fine, I will go with 5 also. So the point is, after first round of estimation, there is a discussion. Then another second round of discussion happens. After that estimation also, people can disagree. And then there is a third round of estimation. Let us say in the third round of estimation also there is disagreement. And that can also happen. Then as a Scrum Master, you say, let us have a senior developer or an architect act as a tiebreaker. So if people are debating between an 5 and an 8, so let us ask Venkatesh sir, he's a senior guy. He has done many of those estimations. Whatever he says, we will go by that. That is what Scrum Master suggests. Everybody says, yes, we will go by senior person's verdict on this. So Venkatesh sir says, I will go with 5 team. If after 2 or 3 rounds of estimation, if still there is a disagreement, but please encourage the team to have disagreements. These disagreements are healthy as long as they have a point to make. But if it turns out to be an ego battle, no, I am Kiran, I am right. So if the discussion is who is right, that's a problem. If the discussion is what is right, then it is fine. The discussion should be what is right rather than who is right. So who is right is not encouraged. What is right is encouraged. It should not be an ego battle. So how do you play planning poker? Planning poker, PO introduces the story, acceptance criteria, team does the tasking. After that, Scrum Master says, let's do an estimation. You could use basic Teams chat. You could use Miro. There are multiple tools in the market. So that tools allow you to basically flip a card. So those cards will have 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, those kinds of estimation scale. So people will do a first round of estimation. Then people who are outliers, they will be asked to explain their position. And this is the core or the heart of this process, that discussion happens so that clarity emerges out of that requirement. What are we going to do? What are we going to build? What are we going to test? The details, how many APIs? Some say, no, no, 1 API is not enough. We need 2 APIs. The other person says, no, only 1 API is there. Imagine we needed 2 APIs here instead of 1. And team after 4th day discovered this problem. So better you talk it out now. So that is the whole purpose, that you have a discussion. So after first round, so you ask the outliers. Then again, second round of estimation. After second round, everybody agrees. Bingo. We can set the story points. There is still no agreement. Then another round of discussion. Then if still after 3 rounds there is disagreement, you go to your tiebreaker and say, in the interview, they will ask, okay, you have 3 rounds of discussion. There is no, what are you going to do? You will suggest that let's include your senior QA, tech lead, or anybody can be a tiebreaker. And then whatever he says, we will go about it. Because it is not the points. Ultimately, it's a useless exercise of whatever it is, 5 or 8. Or team can go with 8 also. No problem. If they think in their mind it is 8, fine. Let them go with it. There is no problem. The only point is that they have a discussion so that clarity emerges in the requirement. Because let us say Kiran was supposed to do this requirement story. After on 4th day, he is sick and out. So because this discussion has already happened, Wasim also knows the details of this story. He can also pick it up. You got me, right? The requirement is clear to everybody in the team because of this discussion, so that anybody and everybody can pick that story if there is a need. And this increases the domain knowledge also. Okay, so now let us go back to
Can there be a one story point as well? One. Can there be a story with one
Yes,
story
there
point?
can be a simple, you just have to create a radio button, or you just have to create a table, alter a column, add something. Very simple task. You can say it a 1 pointer.
80 also 1 pointer. 80
80
session also 1 pointer, I think.
80 session also 1 pointer. But typically avoid stories with only UI backend or Java task or a QA task. You don't slice the stories based on the technical layers. So you slice the story based on the functionality and not on the basis of technical layers. In Agile, because otherwise, if you just create a UI story, that story in itself cannot be tested. That story does not bring any value. So we don't consider that as a proper story. We consider a story which in its entirety, it works and delivers some value. So it needs to have all the three layers. I'll get more into
Sir,
it.
one example, please. What you said for what?
Sorry, I
Uh,
didn't get it.
uh, no, just repeat it, no, sir. I just need an example for what you said actually, just right now.
This is an example of what I said. See, this story has all the technical layers, UI, Java, backend. So if it were only a UI task, that in itself, so you are just creating a form here. So so in UI, they will just create a user registration form. So let us say I create a story, which is just a UI story. I'm just going to create a user registration form. That is not a valid story. I mean, people can still do it, but in Agile, you don't consider that story to be a good story because it does not confirm invest criteria. It is not an independent story. You cannot test the registration form without the corresponding backend. So that, and you cannot show the story to the stakeholders also, because what are you going to show a form? If you click on it, nothing happens. That's a broken functionality. You got it, right?
Creating only a registration form by developer is not a good story, but uh, creating a user registration functionality is a user story.
Which means apart from UI, all
Uh,
the corresponding
corresponding
components like
database
Java,
entry.
like backend, whatever is
Okay.
required to
Okay.
complete that functionality. So also typically any functionality will have three layers. It could be two, it could be three, it could be more layers also, but typically it has two or three layers: UI, the middle layer, and the backend layer. So it needs to have all the layers so that the entire functionality works. Okay. So now this story, the registration story, is now a 5-pointer. So let us go back to other stories. So
Can,
let us say
can we
now,
optimize the stories from the other feature as well? From the other epic or a feature? Because we are
so
taking.
for now, we can take, of course. So in this case, the PO says we are going to only pick up stories from this particular epic. But yes, in real life, you will pick up stories from other epics also if they are a priority.
Okay.
Okay. That is up to the PO, whatever he wants to pick up. That is his choice.
So what is the epic here? Epic story?
This is the epic, user onboarding. So user onboarding is the feature that we are working on, that we are going to allow users to onboard. So how are you going to allow users to onboard? We are going to allow them as a guest user. We are going to allow them as using an email and password. We are going to create a secured login. Then we are going to reset the password if they forget it. So these are the basic functionalities we are going to be working on for this feature.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, one question. Acceptance criteria is already added by PO before the refinement.
So he will have a basic acceptance criteria, and then there will be a discussion. Based on the discussion, he may add 1 or 2, 3 points, or he may reduce 1 or 2, 3 points.
Okay. And SM needs to go or read one by one all the acceptance
He will go
criteria.
through, okay, I need this, and then people will ask questions. Tech developers will understand whether they are able to do this technically, it is feasible or not. The testers will see whether it is testable or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then of course they will get into other. So now let us say we get into login. This is a very similar story. Doesn't need. So I'll not get into the details now. I will just put 5-pointer here. The process is same. They would have opened the story, gone through the acceptance criteria, done their tasking, and come up with a estimate. Then this particular story, where is the last one? Okay. Forget password story is a little complicated story because you have to do, there are two flows for UI. And from backend also there is additional effort because it's you have to implement couple of other what do you say, what is that, yeah, hey, come up with the, what do you do in the this thing,
OTP.
no, no, not OTP. This is only a reset password, but integration is little tricky for this kind of a functionality. Integration is also tricky. For even API, you need two APIs. You need two endpoints here rather than a simple API. Apart from that, there is token generation also, expiry logic also. So this is not a 5-pointer. This is a little more complex story. I'll give you a cheat sheet also of how to tell the team of all this. So again, this is little more complicated. So I'm saying 8, but it's up to the team, whatever they want to decide based on the discussion. So now I have come up with the points. Is this okay to all of you? First, you ask me questions, then I'll go through the second concept. This is clear. How do we play planning poker?
Yes.
We did estimations using planning poker. You play planning poker where PO introduces the story, then you do the tasking. After the tasking is over, you have one round of estimation, then a discussion, then another round of estimation. The rounds of estimations depend on whether the team reaches a consensus or not. If they reach a consensus or an agreement after first round, you are fine. If they don't reach the consensus, they have some everybody is not agreeing, then you can have that another round of discussion, or you can have a tiebreaker also. So this is how you do. This is planning poker. Planning poker is the most precise method of estimation. People, you don't go wrong with planning pokers if it is done in a detailed manner. But again, you will not be precise in the first or second sprint. It will take 4, 5, 6 sprints. Maybe this login function, this reset, whatever the reset password feature, everybody says this is 5-point only. Then they realize, oh no, it instead of one API, it had two APIs. Instead of there are too many edge cases also. And there are too many other scenarios also. We made a mistake. We should have marked it as an 8. That discussion happens in the retrospective. And then from next time onwards, if it's a complicated story, they will put more points. Then again, sometimes they will underestimate, sometimes they will overestimate. But it's all a learning curve. You do this estimation, then you see how the sprint goes, you get into retro, whether you did the right thing or not. If you do not do the right thing, then you will learn more. It's like going to the office. You take a 45-minute buffer. So you know you will have a flyover at this time, the school traffic will come or whatever. You have all those things. So let us say you're stuck in a jam for 3 days. Then you adjust your plan. Boss, I need to change my way, or I need to add 15 minutes more to my same process. Exactly same process. So if so Priyanka is a tester, she would test typically she would say, okay, I need this much effort. If it turns out it is more complicated, then she will add more story points from next time. Or if she does it quickly, then she will reduce the effort time on that. So like that we can do. Next time I'll discuss it, how this is a typical ideal way of doing it. So now how do you do that in bad companies or companies where they will pressurize you into getting hours? That also I will explain in the next 5 minutes. But is because if I miss the flow here, then you guys won't understand it when we resume on Monday. So we'll go with that flow also. So is this clear how we play planning poker? Sudipta is very serious today. What happened? All good. Wasim sir has gone for a walk. He says, I don't care about all this nonsense now. Wasim sir, you are there, right? You got it, right? So this is how we play planning poker. And planning poker, they will 100% ask questions. Do you know estimations? Yes, I know estimations. Planning poker is the most popular method. Apart from that, you can also identify. So sometimes you will not have time to get into tasking. In those cases, your base story becomes a S story, small size story, very easy story. You can easily do it in 1 or 2 days. Now I am introducing the time element, because this they will ask you for crap companies. So now let's get into real life. Let's forget about agile in its ideal way. Let's get into the real time. How do you do it? Teams who are starting out, for a small story like a guest browser login, 1 or 2 days effort is required. So let's call it a simple S story. Now the login or the registration story, again simple, not a very complex UI, typical but little more complex, medium complexity in terms of DB, medium complexity but easy in terms of QA. So that will take you maybe 3 to 4 days. Anything which takes 3 to 5 days, what happened? Yeah, now within the apartment. Yeah, I still yeah. Can I come back by 11? Yeah. But you have a phone with you. Yeah, I 3 to 5 days. So let us say it takes 3 to 5 days. So 1 to 2 days, it takes 1 or 2 days. Simple story, S size. Now it takes 3, 4 or 5 days. Medium complexity backend, simple UI, or one of the three things is simple, one is little medium, but nothing is majorly complex. It takes 3 to 5 days. That's a M size story, medium size story. Something which takes 6, 7 or 8 days. One of the either UI or middle layer or backend or QA, one of these 4 components is high on complexity. Other things could be medium complex or low in complexity. One of the components is high in complexity. It will take 6, 7 or 8 days. That's a L story, large story. So S story is 1 or 2 pointer. M story is 3 or 5 pointer. L story is an 8 pointer. That is what basic cheat sheet you can give to the team. So you have 4 components, or let's call it 3. You have a QA, you have a UI, you have a backend. Let us assume there is no middle layer. UI is only churning out your APIs. So QA, you ask the QA. QA says, yeah, low in complexity or medium in complexity, very little risk. We have done, Priyanka says, I have done something like this in the past also. So there is no uncertainty. I know what I am going to do. Fine. Then UI says, yeah, very simple, no problem. I have done something like that. DB also says, very simple, 2-pointer. Now, if one of these 3 people say, no, this is medium in complexity, there is more work into it. The other guy says, yes, this is medium in complexity. If 2 of the 3 components are medium, let us call this story a medium story. Medium story means 3 to 5 days. Again, you are giving ranges. You cannot say this will take only 4 hours or 6 hours. That is too much. So you're saying 3 to 5 days it might take. Some level of complexity is there. So 1 or 2 days. So again, how are you doing this? First, you have divided the story into UI, API task, QA task. Then you check with these guys. Boss, is this simple, low in complexity, medium in complexity, or high in complexity? Is it low in effort, medium in effort, or high in effort? Is it low in risk, medium in risk, or high in risk? Those are the 3 points you ask them. See, if everything is low, S. If 2 out of 3 things is medium, 1 is low, it's a M story, which is a 3 or a 5-pointer. Out of these 3 components, 1 is high, others are medium. Then it is a L story. Everything is high. QA says very high, complex story. DB side says very complex, high on complexity, high on risk. We don't know what we are doing. UI also says very high in complexity. Everybody says high in complexity. That's an Excel or double Excel. It's a tough story. We have to divide that story into simpler versions. We will take an example of those kind of stories also, and I will show you how to break it down. But on a basic level, you understood. QA says, Priyanka says, very tough. Kiran says, very tough. UI also says, multiple workflows, very tough. That's your 13 pointer or a 20 pointer or double Excel. Very big story. Lot of effort is required. It will take, maybe somebody says 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, God knows. And this is all new. Okay, boss. This is new. All was, let's mark it as a 20 pointer or a double Excel. We will not do the story. This cannot be completed in a sprint. We'll see. We'll break it down further. Is
Well,
this?
once I got 13 pointer story. So they blame, I was a guest star for some other team. So they decided it is 13 points. So they split it into 2 sprints. They split that story into 2 sprints.
So it was a 2-week sprint.
Yeah, 2 weeks, correct.
So either they could have split the story, they decided to split the story into two sprints.
Yes, 2 sprints.
The ideal way should have been you split the story into smaller pieces. You could have created a 5-pointer or an 8-pointer or something like that. Rather than doing all 5 or 6 acceptance criteria. What was the story about? It would have multiple acceptance criteria. Rather than taking all 5, you could have taken 3 first. Or rather than developing it for only web and mobile both, you could have done web first and mobile later, or some other way of splitting it up. It could be based on data, it could be based on interfaces. We'll get into that here, how to split these things.
Estimates are done after prioritizing the stories.
So priority can change at any time. See, estimations are done in grooming. Prioritizations are also done prior to that, but sometimes the prioritizations may change on the day of the sprint planning, on the day 1 of your sprint plan. See, I am estimating it now. This is Friday. Let us say my sprint is starting on 5th of September. When the sprint is starting on that day, you will take into account the prioritization on that day, and it can change during these times. So in the sprint planning event itself, the PO will finalize the priorities. He will say, okay, these are, so you will groom 10 stories. Out of those 10 stories, these are my 5 high priority stories. That rough estimation, that rough prioritization he will do. But on the day when the sprint plan, on the day of sprint planning, on the day 1 of sprint plan, out of those 5 stories, one of them could have become medium, and one low priority story could have become high priority story. But so the priority, you will take it on the day 1 of a sprint. That will be your final priority.
Okay, so how this in the grooming call, how will we pick the stories to estimate?
Okay, so I am the PO. I will come and decide which stories I want to estimate with the team today, based on my priorities. So I will, in my mind, I have 3 features that I am working on. Out of those 3 features, 1 feature we have already done. Now we have left with 2 features. Out of those 2 features, there are 15 stories. Out of those 15 stories, these are the 5-6 main stories that I want to do. I'll introduce those first. Then low. This is a decision which is made by the product owner, that which stories he want to discuss it with the team.
So if he is selecting 5 or 6 stories, then we
Typically,
do a relative.
typically these sessions should not last more than 30 to 45 minutes. 1.5 hour sessions, people feel very tired and very irritated. So typically 30 to 45 minute sessions are ideal. Within those 30 to 45 minutes, typically initially the team will take more time. But after 1 or 2, 3, 4 grooming sessions, if it's a medium complexity or small complexity story, it doesn't take more than 2, 3, 4 minutes to groom, maybe 5 minutes. A complex story may take 10, 15 minutes. There could be complex product also. I've seen products in healthcare, 2 hours, 3 hours grooming. That also I've seen, and no way out. Very, very complicated stories. Hundreds of business rules that you have to go through to get finalization on a particular requirement. So, but typically 3 to 5 stories in a 30 to 45 minute session. That is the typical.
After picking those 5 stories, so among that we will start doing the estimation based on the relative.
Based on so team will have a baseline story which they would have decided. So they will always compare the stories to that baseline story, and you could have 2-3 baseline stories.
Two, three
Does that-
baseline stories. I did not understand. Sorry.
Hmm?
We can have 2-3 baseline stories.
See, whatever we are comparing it with the browser guest browser story. That was a very basic story which everybody understood. It was like we are comparing everything to boiled egg here. How much effort is there in making a half fried omelette? Everything we are comparing it to a effort needed in a boiled egg. So you have a baseline to compare with. So that baseline story, you could have one baseline story, you could have two baseline stories also. But typically you start off with one, and that one baseline story is chosen by the team.
Okay.
So you got this, right? Typically, they would discuss 3 to 5 stories. Sometimes it could be more, sometimes it could be less, depending on, and there could be 2 or 3 grooming sessions in a sprint. So if you have a team size of 10 or 12, typically you will groom 3 to 5 stories in a typical grooming session, because there is a team size of 10 to 12 or 10 to 15. They would typically do 8 to 10 stories in a sprint. Again, these are not golden rules, but typical use cases. If it could be a complex product, they could only do 3 stories or 4 stories in a sprint. Yeah, Abhilasha ma'am, you have a question.
What all factors the team members should keep in mind while providing the estimation on story points? Yes.
Again, they have to get into the details of the story. They are again compare the details, whether they have identified all the dependencies, whether they know the design of that, whether they have done something like that in the past. What is the risk? How many users will be impacted using that functionality? Is this a new technology, or have they done something like this in the previous? Is there any reusable component that they can use, or is it something which they have to build from the scratch? So these are some of the factors. How many edge cases, how many negative cases? Is it a deep testing? How much regression will be required? If you are just starting out a functionality, not much regression is required. So it could be less effort in QA. Let us say already you have a feature which is you have built a lot of things in it. Now something new comes up, then you have a lot of regression effort also. So that will be higher income effort.
Okay. And let's say there is a new team member who recently joined the project. So let's say every time he or she is giving the high story points,
That
high
is
for
fine.
it,
He will
keeping in mind like.
that he or she will learn in 2-3 sprints.
So should we as a Scrum Master give more weightage to his or him?
Yes, definitely, because he's a new guy. He's going to make more mistakes. Give him more opportunity to make mistakes. Arey, why would you do that? Yeah, if somebody is new to your team, obviously you will say let him be an observer for 2 or 3 sessions, and then
Yes.
once he understands the process, then you take his point. Whatever he's estimating more seriously.
Yes, yes.
If somebody's just come out and he's saying this is 20, the guy doesn't know anything, why would you take him seriously? Let him gel with the team, let him understand what to. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Makes sense now. Now you guys have a hang of how do estimations happen. You also have a hang of, one sec. Now let us say I don't want to complicate things, so we'll do it on Monday, the story point to hourly mapping. But I'll still introduce a very simple concept to you guys. So this is clear. Is there any question? Can I proceed further? Okay, now let us say, can I proceed further, right? So you guys knew how did we arrive at all these story points, correct? Okay, no, we'll introduce that. I wanted to introduce the hour thing also. We'll do it on Monday. Otherwise you will get. But t-shirt sizing you have got an idea about. also. A simple story with no complexity in any of the layers is your S. A medium complexity story in either of the layers, that's your M. Story which is two M's and one H high in complexity, that's your 8 or L story. Everything high in complexity, that becomes your XL or double XL. So this is a very basic, and then we'll get into more into t-shirt sizing on Monday. So Venkatesh sir, you have a question.
Sir, if it is a new project, the sprint is starting on maybe Tuesday. So for this, we have to start the grooming sessions on Thursday, previous week.
It could
Is
be
that
a,
so?
if it's first sprint, then you will take 1 week or 10 days to do all this
Okay.
kind of.
And what is the first thing that we do in the day of the sprint? Today is Thursday. Today it is starting the first sprint day. So, what is the first thing we do? Daily scrum or the sprint planning meeting?
Sprint planning meeting.
Sprint planning meeting. Okay. So in that sprint planning meeting, so if it is a large backlog items, for suppose, sir, then in the product backlog item refinement activity itself, we have to do the t-shirt sizing and the bucket system kind of a thing. And planning poker can be done in the sprint planning. So
No,
deep dive
how,
discussion.
see, let me see, in sprint planning, we discuss this. To do sprint planning, you need two things. What are those two things?
Product backlog refinement activity and capacity chart.
No. You need
Sprint
stories which are ready for development.
Exactly.
goal.
So that is what we are doing in the product backlog refinement activity, no, sir?
Exactly. When you
Prioritizing it.
start the sprint planning, you already have the stories that are ready for development. Correct?
Correct, sir.
So why would you do estimation on that day then? We already have stories that are ready for development, which means estimation is already done on those stories.
Okay. That means prioritizing means even estimations are being done.
Prioritization. Okay, let me. Sometimes I forget you are just starting out in these things. That's fine. Okay. I'm actually so used to working with Scrum Masters now that fine. Wait. See, this is the product backlog. Is this clear? This is the product. There is no
Product backlog.
sprint. If you see, there is no sprint. Correct?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
This is the product. Now, these stories are ready for development. Why? Because our DOR list says that, boss, any story which will have an acceptance criteria, tasking done, everything done. So let us assume, so we did not do the tasking for this. So let us, because so let us say we take this story. Okay, let us say this story. So let us say we take this story. This story has an acceptance criteria. Tasking is already done. Story points is already put. Everything is ready. So we say you need to have acceptance criteria. Tasking should be done. Estimation should be done. Dependencies should be identified. Blockers should be identified. Design should be ready. Everything is ready. Now this story, I have something called DOR and I mark this story in an Excel or somewhere, or you can put it a label here also that this story is ready for development. Okay. Similarly, all these, so if I look at my backlog now, all of these stories that I have, except this story, which is from the second epic, which we have not discussed because PO says this epic is not important now. Only this epic is important now. This is high on priority. All these stories are high on priority and we have to do this and we groom it. And these are all ready for development. Now, let us say this is sprint planning. Assume now this is sprint planning. This is the board you are now seeing. Now, these stories are ready for development and this is sprint planning. Now Kiran will pick up this item. He says, yeah, I'm going to be doing this. Don't worry about this. I moved it back, so that is why it's showing a warning. So let us say this story also, this you are going to be doing. So let us say the team picks up these stories. This is the first sprint. We don't know. We don't have a historical account. So based on the gut feel, they all say they will do one story. Somebody says, Kiran says, I'll be a part of these two stories from the backend. I will be able to complete it. Wasim says, I will be able to do this story and this story on the API front. Then based on the discussion, everybody has picked up these stories and we have picked up these 4 stories in the sprint planning. These 4 stories were already groomed. They were ready for development, and based on our availability, we have picked these stories in the first sprint. Now, on Monday, we will run this sprint and see how it goes. At the end of the sprint, will we be able to complete the stories or not? If we are not able to complete the stories, if there is a bug, how we will show a bug to the story, how can we block a story, how we will link it, we will see that. Then we will discuss how the spillovers will happen. Then we will groom more stories, and then we will start sprint 2, then 3. Then we will see after 2 or 3 sprints what is the concept of velocity, how we can take the concept of velocity and use that concept to plan our sprints better. Because this is first sprint, we don't know what is how many stories we can complete. We will see how many we can complete, and based on this concept of story points, how this concept of story points will get into the concept of velocity, and how we will use velocity to size our sprints. Don't worry, it will take 1 or 2 days, and then these are very basic, easy concepts. Don't worry about it.
So to sum up, product backlog refinement activities, prioritization by the PO, acceptance with acceptance criteria, already completely discussed with the complete team. Then subtasking, then estimation also done. Okay, then the team has decided we will be doing only three user stories for this sprint. So
No. The grooming is you are just getting a story ready for a sprint.
okay.
You are just getting story ready. Okay, the grooming is complete. We know everything about it. We have estimated this story is now ready to be taken up. So now let us say I have 10 such stories which are ready to be taken up.
Oh.
Then on the day of sprint planning, we will decide based on our availability and previous performance, how many stories we are going to pick up. It could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 3, it could be 8. It depends on what is my past performance and what is the priority set by the product owner and what is the availability. Let us say my typical availability of a team is 100 hours. And in 100 hours, my team does 5 stories. And this time also, they are available for 100 hours. I will pick 5 stories.
5 stories.
Now, let us say they are only available for 60 hours because there is Onam coming up. I'm just giving you a real-time use case. I was just doing a sprint planning with one of the teams. I was attending. So Onam is coming, right? So all that discussion was happening today. So because of Onam, instead of 100 hours, only 60 hours is available. So instead of doing 5 stories, I will do only 3 stories because my availability has reduced. So that reduces my capacity to do things also.
Okay.
You got it, right?
I got the clarity, sir.
I have a doubt. Can you, in interview, if they ask, can we say that in planning, we will be quantifying the stories which are working in the sprint, and in grooming, we will be working on the quality of the stories.
Correct. So grooming is you are finalizing the scope of the story and estimating it. In planning session, you are deciding whether you are going to pick that story or not to do. The final decision to pick which stories is in the planning meeting. Grooming meetings are there just to decide what is the acceptance criteria, what are the different tasks, what is the story points on this. Whether a story is an 8-pointer, 5-pointer, 13-pointer, that discussion happens in the grooming call. In the planning call, we find out how many hours people are available. If the typical availability of a team is fine, it's normal, we will go by whatever our normal past performance is. Typically, we do 5 stories when we are available for 100 hours. Now the availability is reduced by 40% because of Onam. So instead of taking up 5 stories, we will reduce that also by 40%. We will only take 3. We will adjust our intake also based on the availability. Because obviously, if people are not available, how can they complete their normal performance? You get me, right? So typically, if people are available for 100 hours, they used to do 5 stories. Now they are not available for 100 hours. They will be on leave because of Onam. So they cannot complete what they normally can. They will be completing the reduced amount of stories. So there has to be a reduction done on the story level. I mean, how do you do that in reality? We'll get to that concept. This is still not, we are still far away from that concept. We are at the concept of estimations just. We'll get into capacity. So don't get confused. Today's session was what is planning poker? How many rounds happen? After what? You add the acceptance criteria, you do the tasking, then the planning poker happens. If there is a disagreement, there is a tiebreaker. And you do a comparison between stories. You can do a comparison between stories in terms of points also. You can do it in terms of t-shirt sizing also. You can say it is a small size story, medium size story, large size story, or a extra large size stories, depending on the complexity of the each layer of the work. Is this clear? That is the whole concept of today's. I'm not getting into sprint planning today. Sprint planning we'll get into on Monday. So once we will get into that concept also one by one. Don't get confused. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
Today's session is what is planning poker? How do you do estimations? We'll get into sprint planning next day. Yes, Priyanka. Today we are.
Yeah. So the product owner will have, I mean, is there a limit that how many stories they will be modifying, I mean, refining in the grooming sessions?
See, like I told
Because
you.
they can go ahead and do a lot of, I mean, instead of.
So basic question is how many stories can be groomed in a typical grooming session?
Yeah.
That is your question, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean to say that a team can pick 7 to 8 stories, but the product owner will do the refining of, I mean, ahead of the team, right? So
Yeah. So at any given point of time, let us say my capacity is 10 stories. Just saying. So let us say my capacity is 10 stories. So at any given point of time, minimum 15 to 20 stories should be ready for development. What if the product owner goes on a leave?
okay.
So that is your backlog health. Your backlog health is a function of how many stories are ready for development. Again, these are topics we are going to discuss in detail when we go ahead. Remember, some of you were asking estimations previously also. So I was telling hold on to your discussions then, because we'll do a very detailed. So this sprint planning, backlog health also will do a detailed analysis. Now I'm just telling you since you have asked me. So it will be 2x of your capacity. But how do you find out what is your capacity? That also we'll
because it will be done during a sprint time, so that much effort will also go from the team's time, right? So
that is already taken into consideration when you are doing your hours. Remember when we were finding out how many hours are available to do stories, we have already taken out these scrum ceremonies from available hours.
Okay. Yeah.
In the capacity sheet.
In the capacity sheet.
Okay, so initially only it is decided that these many hours will be for this planning.
So let us say we have total 150 hours. I am just giving you a sample number. 150 hours are there for the team. Out of those 150 hours, let us say 30 hours are already removed from that for the planning meetings. So 120 hours were left. Then 20 hours we have taken account for unplanned work also. Now only 100 hours are left for doing user stories.
Okay.
Still the team will tell you, you are wasting our time. Arey boss, you can see your sheet. Like you, team will also ask you, but why should we do grooming? Joey, we will waste our time. Arey boss, this time is already taken into consideration. They will find you 100 ways of avoiding this meeting, but you'll have to get them. Okay. Yeah, Deepak, your question.
Yeah, I have one small confusion. This is fine, what you said, grooming. Like in our organization, they do something called as PI increment, and I have not seen any grooming call. After that, sprint planning goes on. So, what is the difference between PI that is
Let's
and
take this. That's a bad practice which they do. So in PI planning, do they do grooming?
yeah, in
They
PI
discuss
planning.
stories in the PI plan, that 2 day event you have in those 2 days, or 2 day or 3 day, do you discuss stories with your PO in that event?
Yes, they discuss all that as
Okay.
well.
And then you do not do a detailed discussion. Whatever you get in PI,
We go to the sprint planning.
and you have 3 or 4 sprints without any grooming there.
Yeah, we don't have grooming after.
You have a PI planning, and then for next 3-4 weeks or 3-4 sprints, you don't have another grooming.
Correct.
So what if there are new changes, or what if there are more clarifications, or what if you have to do adjustments based on the spillover? That doesn't happen.
No, that I have not seen.
So there is some flaw in the how this works.
Then why do they have PI actually? Because they are going to have
I
grooming.
will when we get to safe, I'll explain you that concept.
But both are different, you're saying. PI is different and grooming is different.
Yes, PI planning is very different. Yeah, groomings we all understand. What we did today was
This is grooming, correct. So before
Yeah.
grooming, they don't have PI typically.
Huh?
No, before this grooming call, they don't have the PI event.
Forget about PI for now.
Okay.
When we get there, you will get the concept.
Okay.
Okay, we all understood what is a grooming call. We did a grooming call today.
Correct.
I
That is
introduced the
clear.
story. I explained a baseline story. Then we did a comparison. We introduced 2-3 stories. Now these stories are ready for development. We did a grooming call. Yeah, Mohammed sir.
Will there be any simulation sessions
This was a simulation session.
for the whole process? I mean,
This was the whole process.
no, I mean a continuous one.
What do you mean by continuous?
No, like we do it step by step, like grooming, all everything.
See, so I now I get what your question. So we did a grooming today.
Yeah.
Right. Then we did a bit of a sprint planning today, but we'll do a proper sprint planning simulation on Monday.
No.
Once you understand the concept of velocity.
Yeah.
See, you cannot do sprint planning without understanding the concept of story points. Then you have to understand the concept of velocity. Today, you have understood the concept of story points. So some stories are 5, some stories are 3, some stories are 8, some stories are 13, based on the complexity and the ease of doing the effort, the ease, the uncertainty. There are a lot of factors in deciding what are the story points for a particular story. Once you understand the concept of story points, then the next concept will be of velocity, which we'll discuss on Monday. Once you understand the concept of velocity, then you will understand the concept of sprint planning fully. You know only the one part, the availability sheet. You don't know how to decide how many stories to pick up. So that is a feature, that is a function which is dependent on your velocity. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Oh man, I'm hungry now.
Sir, one question. Just
Okay, fine.
I will not take much time.
No.
Just
Go ahead.
okay. So if they ask like you are working with US client, so when you are doing the sprint planning, if it is on the first day, on Monday, so like I have to wait for
Whenever that happens, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever,
from
basically on day one of the sprint.
okay. So let's say on a Monday, from Monday, sprint is starting. So in our case, what we do, like team starts working on the story which are in product backlog, and when our PO or Scrum Master comes on the day end on Monday, then they start the sprint planning. So, but this is not the right practice or right answer to say in interview, right?
Correct. So the right
So,
answer to say in the interview is that on day one of the new sprint, you start that there could be a DSU. That's fine here. DSU, you could have a very quick discussion. Okay, we'll have a sprint planning. This is a blocker because some of these stories will be going on, so that you can still discuss. But the official sprint starts when you do the sprint planning. You decide what are the stories we are going to do. We'll do a sprint planning simulation on Monday. Yeah? Don't worry. We'll get into these questions.
okay.
Yeah, let's do it formally now. Why rush it now?
Yes.
We'll do it like estimations. This now you guys are getting weirder and weirder. When we do other discussions, you ask me questions on estimations. Now, when we are doing estimations, now you are asking me questions on sprint planning. When we'll do sprint planning, you'll go ask me questions on some other concept. Why ask me questions on what we have done, Brahma? Chavan sir is all quiet. He says, "This is nonsense. What is this happening today?" I'm worried, yeah.
No, sir.
When we were discussing retrospectives, you were asking me on estimations. Now we are doing estimations. You are asking me on sprint planning. When we'll do sprint planning, you'll ask me something else. I don't want to you guys.
Actually,
No,
Sir,
actually,
sir,
lots of things are running in our mind. That's why those questions are
but
coming.
concentrate on what is discussed. Sprint planning
Yes,
will come.
yes.
Sir, today's actually session is awesome actually because I got two questions answered. That's why actually I asked this. I mean, in team also, our group is there, right? WhatsApp. So I have asked that question actually, and exactly you have explained to today's session. So
Nice.
thank you.
Even I
Good.
got much clarity, sir, today because a lot of doubt actually. I was having a misconception actually. That was cleared right now.
Uh, don't worry. After 1 week, after 2 weeks, you will say, "Oh, what an idiot I was! What was I thinking?" It'll come. It'll come, but it can't come suddenly. That's evolution, right? So your teams will also be, they will mess up this story pointing and estimation in the first 2, 3 sprints. Then slowly it will improve. But these management folks, they will be, why are we using this? Why can't we do this estimation now? Why are we not using? It takes time. It takes minimum 6 to 8 sprints to get the team settled into this process. So it'll come, it'll come. Okay, now I don't want to spend any other more time. This is done here. This is Friday here. Let me just go away now. Okay. This has been a very tough week. One of our clients ran away with too many escalations. So, okay, so have fun. Have a nice weekend. I'll just do a quick poll and the rest of your questions will take up on Monday. Monday we'll start with the sprint planning now since you have asked so many questions. But before that, concept of velocity and then we'll get into sprint. But go through the questions on estimations. I will also give you few more questions on estimations. They will ask you. Most importantly, we will cover how have you done estimations and this story and all those. We will get into how bad organizations do in terms of hours. What we'll cover is how to do story pointing and hour mapping. If they ask you, no, we need to know in how many hours you will do this story. So that story point to hour mapping, how we will do that also we'll cover on Monday. Okay. Okay, but I don't want to confuse you, so just estimation is enough. This is typically how beautiful agile teams do their estimations. The entire story.
Escalations.
Sorry.
How do you manage when we have a lot of escalations in the team? Like if we will be starting new and we make mistakes, how do we handle that?
Do you want a interview answer or a real time answer?
No, real time.
Real time answer. See, if there are too many escalations, I order myself a dark chocolate cake. Then I eat a cake with the side and be on the calls the entire day and try to manage eating that chocolate cake. Or I smoke a lot of cigarettes. So it's tough, yeah, it's tough. But at the end of the day, you get used to it and you don't take any of this seriously. You can't take any of this seriously, right? So people will scream, people will do all sorts of politics, they will play dirty games, they will do all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, you have to manage it through a lot of patience, common sense, and but I am not a master at it, but I try my best. But the bottom line remains that the only one tip I can give you is sleep peacefully, forget everything. If you have the ability to forget everything, then you will be relaxed, and if with a relaxed mind you will be able to make better decisions. If you panic, your role is not to panic because everybody else is going to panic. Delivery heads are going to panic, tech leads are going to panic, QAs are going, everybody is going to panic. Your role is not to panic and tell them, don't worry, all is well, or something like that. Things will work out, because you have to be very ruthless in terms of what is the process that are being followed. Is the team doing proper RCAs? Is there an overcommitment? Is there a technical challenge? Is there a knowledge gap? You have to assess with a very cool mind and see what best you can do. So that's how. Okay. Okay, have a nice weekend, guys. Have a blast. See you on Monday, and hopefully we will concentrate on sprint planning. Okay, bye. Take care.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello, Kiran.
Yes.
Kiran, actually, are you in the group? Can we?
Yeah, I mean.